Hi everyone. My name is Jerry Wise, and for over 45 years, I've been helping people who grew up in narcissistic, toxic, and dysfunctional families get family dysfunction out of them and become the true selves they were never allowed to be. Today, I want to talk about very regular phrases that are a threat to narcissistic, toxic, or dysfunctional families, or dysfunctional parents in particular. Emotional enmeshment is the primary reason why these phrases are a threat to them and why they are a threat to you as well. These phrases are ones that imply autonomy, self-differentiation, being an individual, not dependent on others. And that's a big threat in a dysfunctional family, and particularly with narcissistic parents. Self-differentiation is the answer. Self-differentiation is the skill of asserting your needs, preferences, and boundaries despite strong pressures to conform to harmful norms. Harmful norms, harmful expectations, harmful demands, and behavior of your family in any relationship system. Self-differentiation will help you break free and recover the self you were never allowed to be. The calm, happy, resilient, and confident you, whether you are in contact with your family or not. I want to talk about some of these phrases. One phrase that we would want to recognize would be a threat to a dysfunctional family or a narcissistic parent. I did this on my own. It indicates independence, which may threaten their perception of being needed or central in the child's life, even if the child's an adult, for sure. Again, you go to your parent and say, I was really happy I did this on my own. And see if that evokes something in other people. Observe that in other people. Even with your friends, you can say, I'm really happy I did this on my own. See what they say, because that's a phrase that would prompt some reaction about enmeshment. Well, you've got to have other people helping you. It wasn't always all done all on your own, etc., etc. Let me give you another example of a phrase that would be a threat to a narcissistic parent. No, thank you. Even polite refusal can be seen as a rejection or disobedience. Just saying no, thank you is a big problem. How dare you say no? And I don't care whether you're saying thank you or not. You're wrong for saying it. Another phrase that would be and seen as a threat by a narcissistic parent is, I disagree. Any form of disagreement may be interpreted as criticism or challenge to their authority or their parenting or them knowing what's best for you. If you say I disagree, that means probably you're wrong and that they will need to do things to get you to change back. Another phrase that is threatening or can feel like a threat, that's not how I remember it. What? This suggests that their memory or version of events is incorrect and might be perceived as calling them a liar or questioning their sanity just by simply saying, that's not how I remember it. And when you question a narcissist's memory or facts or what they share as being reality, they will feel threatened by that. Another phrase that would be a threat to narcissistic parent is, I'm really happy with how this turned out. I'm really happy that I was able to achieve that. I'm really happy that this worked out the way I wanted it to work out. Expressing satisfaction or joy independently of their influence might be seen as diminishing their role or value. Another phrase, you might be wrong about that, directly implies fallibility, which can threaten their self-image. How dare you actually confront them and say, you might be wrong about that. If they're talking about your spouse or something like that and saying, oh, I know that your wife doesn't like me. Well, Mom, you might be wrong about that. And again, threatens their self-image, their fallibility. Another phrase that could be threatening for a narcissistic parent, I've made plans already, suggests autonomy and can be seen as a sign of not prioritizing the relationship with them. When you say a phrase like that, you've just challenged the authority of our relationship and the importance of it. Because I've made plans already. Not that I've made plans because I don't like you or don't want to do that. I've just already made plans. And that others are valued in my circle of relationships. But they will see it as a rejection of them and not prioritizing them. Another important phrase that could be threatening. I need some space. And this can be interpreted as a rejection or an undermining of their importance in your life. Many who are uncertain about whether they want to go no contact or not, or feel like they just need a break from a toxic narcissistic parent, may give the reason as, I just need some space. But again, this is interpreted as a rejection, and you've just said they're not important in their mind. And by the way, I'm not saying you should not use these phrases. I think these phrases are superb phrases. And if they are said calmly, matter-of-factly, and without a lot of high anxiety, oftentimes it creates less of a problem. Another phrase that would be threatening to a narcissistic parent is, I got help from a friend, or I got help from a counselor, or a pastor, a rabbi, imam, or whoever I was getting help from, and I got help from them. Suggests reliance on others besides them, which can trigger feelings of jealousy or inadequacy. Narcissists don't like to share influence. And I found that case true often as when I was a pastor, and then I was a counselor, a marriage and family therapist, and when I was in those roles, how many times pastors maybe did not want to share influence. In other words, they wanted to be the primary influence on their parishioner. Not that they shouldn't have a strong relationship with their parishioner, I understand that. But it was like, I'm not sure I want to share this with a counselor because they might put notions into their head that wouldn't be okay with. And not realizing maybe a good counselor, coach, or therapist would be a real benefit to the client and to the parishioner. So sharing influence is important for all of us to be able to do. Another phrase that could be threatening, I know what I'm doing. That implies competence and confidence, which could be seen as not needing their guidance or advice. I've even told a friend not too long ago, I know what I'm doing. Meaning, I really do have this. I have done this before, or this is something I know about. I know what I'm doing. And again, if they feel insecure, then they're going to feel like I don't need them or they don't matter. And that's not, of course, what I'm intending at all. But maybe in this instance, I've got this. And when you have a parent who is always nitpicking about everything, well, did you put in bleach in your water so you could wash the dishes and that would kill germs? Do you do this for that? And it's like, no, I've got this. I know what I'm doing. And even if I'm not doing it your way, I still know what I'm doing for what I want to do. I don't have to do it your way. Another phrase could be threatening. I'm okay with failing. I'll be okay. It shows acceptance of failure and self-sufficiency, potentially undermining their role as a protector. In other words, wait a minute, it's my job to make sure you don't fail. It's my job to make sure you're a success so I look like a success. Well, no, I'm okay with failing because I will learn a lot and I'll be okay. A narcissist doesn't feel comfortable with that phrase. Another phrase that could be threatening also is, I achieved this. I achieved that. I'm so happy that I was able to accomplish that. That indicates success or happiness that doesn't attribute credit to them. And they could feel very uncomfortable with that phrase. I got a bunch of subscribers on YouTube. Well, that didn't have anything to do with any narcissistic influence. It was something I was working on. And of course, in these phrases, we're not implying that they're not important or they're not valuable. It's just, it's okay if I affirm myself. That's okay in a non-hubris or narcissistic way. I'm glad I was able to achieve that. And just go and tell someone, I am so glad that I was able to go to school and get that degree. I just feel so good about that and that I did that. See how comfortable everybody is around you with you saying something like that. You're not saying I'm better than anybody else. You're not saying I'm smarter than everybody else. I'm just so glad I accomplished that. Another phrase that could be threatening is, can we talk about this later? Might be perceived as dismissive or as avoiding their input. In other words, you're kind of shutting them down in their perspective. And maybe I do want to shut them down. Maybe I don't want to talk about this right now. Either because they're too upset or I'm feeling a little uncomfortable, whatever. But, can we talk about this later? Again, it could be very threatening to a narcissistic parent or family member. Another phrase, that's not what I want. Direct expression of personal preference or choice can be seen as defiance or ungratefulness. That's not what I want. Well, here, let me get you some lemon meringue pie. Well, no, that's okay. That's not something I really would like to have, but I appreciate that. And they're all offended because you're being dismissive or avoiding how much they love lemon meringue pie, and you should too. And so now I've just challenged their security about that. I don't need your security. I don't like that type of pie. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm sure it's a great pie and it's delicious. Not for my taste. It's not. Another phrase, let's agree to disagree. Although a common way to diplomatically end a disagreement, it might be seen as a refusal to acknowledge that they are right. Because if you say, let's agree not to agree, that's a refusal that you're not going to agree. That's a refusal that you will agree. I don't agree, and I'm not going to agree, so let's agree to disagree. That is not welcomed. No, we have to fight this out until you come over to my side. Another phrase that could be threatening to a narcissistic parent is, I decided to go with someone else's suggestion. Preferring another person's advice can trigger feelings of inadequacy or rivalry or even jealousy. That, hey, I got lots of opinions, got opinions from you, narcissistic parents, other friends, other professionals, and I've decided to go with this. And again, that can be very painful for them because you're not doing what they think you should be doing or thinking. Another phrase might be, I think this works better for me if I do this. Choosing a different method or preference might suggest their advice or methods are not superior or not right or not traditional or not the way we've always done it. For example, in saying, well, I know we always get together as a family, as an extended family on Christmas Day or Christmas morning. Well, I'd like to have my own family celebration of Christmas on Christmas Day, so I'd prefer to have, another time when we visit. That night, the following day, Christmas Eve, using those kinds of holidays. I think that would work better for me. And I want to, that would be my preference. And again, that could bring up a whole host of a hornet's nest. about emotions and how they feel about that. Why are you rejecting them? Why isn't their way more superior? Yeah, but we've always done that. Why would you want to mess up something that's perfect or wonderful? Well, because I have my own family now, I might want to have something different going on. So we'll come and visit you, but not on Christmas Day, because we'd like to have our own family tradition for our kids waking up in the morning or whatever we do for that holiday. So, what are some self differentiation tips? Let them be triggered by mature sentences and communications. If you say these things, let them be triggered. They're going to be triggered. Let them be. They have a right to be. They can do that all they want. You just want to work on standing firm that I understand what you're saying, mom, dad, sister, brother, whomever it is, but my bottom line is that I'd like to talk about this later. Or I'm going to go with a friend's advice. Or I need some space. Or I know you told me just how everything went in your mind, but that's not how I remember it. So I can listen to you, but that's not the bottom line of how I remember it. Secondly, focus on reducing your reactivity to their response. If you are mature, they respond immaturely or reactively. Don't fuel the reactivity by you becoming reactive back with them. It doesn't help. It doesn't help you. It doesn't keep you calm, and it doesn't keep you centered. And we want to be able to respond back. I hear what you're saying. That's just not how I remember it. I hear exactly what you're saying. I can even tell you what you're saying, but I disagree. Thirdly, be okay with disappointing them. They are a part of self-differentiation, and growing up and maturing involves disappointing other people. You're becoming yourself. If you want to continue to be them and them be you, then don't mature, don't self-differentiate, only do what everybody thinks you are and everybody wants you to be. With real maturity, it's going to include disappointment of others. And fourthly, plan self-differentiation responses ahead of time. In other words, think about what would you say? What would you anticipate them saying? What then could you say? Anticipate what they're saying, and then say what you're saying, and keep the broken record going of just saying, I understand what you're saying, but this is my preference. This is my preference. But this is my preference. And practicing those responses. And I work with clients all the time about practicing and staying clear about those responses and keeping their anxiety down and working on that, because it feels so much different when we can improve in those areas. If you want to learn how to calmly say these phrases without losing your peace and confidently navigate their responses, join the free training that I have listed below, Build the True Self You Were Never Allowed to Have. Check out the link below. Please subscribe, like, and comment to this video. I want to thank you for joining me. Have a great day and be wise.